Hi everyone, welcome back to Dimitra's Dishes. So today I'm going to teach you how to make my fudge brownie recipe. These were so popular. They were one of the most popular things that we sold when we owned our cafe. They're fudgy, they're chocolatey, and they're very simple to make. Let's go over the ingredients and then we're going to get started. We're going to need some granulated sugar, a little bit of coffee, some eggs, sour cream, unsalted butter, lots and lots of semi-sweet chocolate, some all-purpose flour, pure vanilla extract, a little bit of salt, and some chocolate chips. Now brownies are super decadent, and this is a very decadent recipe. It's just exactly the way it should be. Do not substitute anything else for this, otherwise it will not turn out the way it should. Now we begin in a little saucepan by putting in our butter. So we're gonna add the butter, the granulated sugar, a little pinch of salt. That's about a half teaspoon or so. And then coffee. So I have some prepared coffee over here. So if you don't have any leftover coffee from like the morning or something that's already been prepared, just put in some water and a little bit of instant coffee. You could even use instant espresso. That'll do too. So we're going to turn the heat on medium and we're going to whisk this all together until it melts. So once the mixture begins to come to a boil and everything has melted, we're just going to add it to our chocolate. So it's best to use the highest quality chocolate that you can find. Baking chocolate or chocolate melting wafers are the best to use because they melt very smoothly and there's no residue left behind. If you're using chocolate chips, it's going to take them a little bit longer to melt. But once it's melted, it's going to be nice and smooth. Then we're going to add pure vanilla extract. We're also going to add some sour cream. And then while that mixture is cooling down a little bit, we're going to whisk these eggs together. We're going to use 4 whole eggs. Whisk them until they're smooth, and then we're just going to temper this mixture a little bit with some of the hot chocolate so that way it can melt smoothly into the chocolate mixture and there won't be any scrambled eggs in here. And now just add the eggs to the chocolate and whisk well to combine. Now we're just going to add the all-purpose flour a little bit at a time, maybe in 3 to 4 batches. And we're just going to keep whisking this until it's smooth and all of the flour is incorporated. So once the flour has melted into the chocolate, don't overmix it. You just want to make sure you don't see any more streaks or clumps of flour. We're going to add our chocolate chips. So you could do a cup of ground up walnuts or chopped walnuts or chocolate chips. I like to do the chocolate chips, especially if you're serving it to a group of people that might have food allergies or nut allergies. But the mix is ready. The brownie batter is ready. Now we're going to put it into our baking trays. Now I'm using 2 baking trays. These are 9-inch round trays. One is a pie dish actually because I can't find, I usually make this in 2 8-inch baking trays so that way they're a little bit thicker. But 9-inch is what I have, so that's what I'm going to use. You could also use a 9 by 13-inch baking dish, so you could do 1 big rectangular cake. That would be good too. Use whatever you have. I'm just going to grease the baking trays with some melted butter. So I have a piece of parchment paper in the baking pan, but I'm going to leave the pie pan as is, and I'm just going to serve it straight out of the pan. But I'm going to put parchment paper so that way it releases and comes out easily, and I could serve it in a nice serving tray or a platter or something like that. I'm just going to distribute the batter evenly between these 2 pans. And so I like to use an ice cream scoop so I can distribute it equally. So I do 1 scoop in one pan and 1 in the other until all of the batter is done. So the oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to bake these in the center rack for between 20 to 25 minutes. The center is still going to seem really wet, so you don't want to overcook these. Just keep an eye on them. I'll show you what they look like as soon as they come out. So while the brownies are in the oven baking, I'm going to make my whipped cream. I like to serve this, especially on a special occasion, with raspberry whipped cream. It's very easy to make, just a few ingredients. We'll go over them in a minute. But I want to tell you that if the day that you're going to make these, I don't recommend that you make these the same day that you're going to be serving them, because this is not your ordinary brownie that can be served straight out the oven like a cakey brownie would be, or even a traditional fudge brownie. A lot of traditional fudge brownies, you can serve them almost straight out the oven when they're baked, or at least an hour or so afterwards. This brownie is going to need plenty of time to set because the center is still going to be, it's going to almost be like a molten lava cake, just cooked a little bit past that stage. And I will show you what it looks like in a little bit so that way you're able to visualize it. So you can make the brownies a day or two ahead of time, even a week or 2 ahead of time, and keep them stored in your freezer. But I'll go all over all of that when we get to it. But for now, let's go over the ingredients for the whipped cream, which are so simple and basic. We're going to need some heavy whipping cream, a little bit of confectioner sugar. I like to use raspberry jam for this, so I have raspberry jam and pure vanilla extract. Now, raspberries are not in season over here. It's still winter when I'm making this recipe. It's actually February, so the raspberries are not sweet at all, and they're not very easy to find, so that's why I'm using raspberry jam. If you're watching this video and it's summertime where you are, then you can use fresh raspberries and just puree them in a blender with a couple of tablespoons of sugar just so they can sweeten up, and you can use that to sweeten your whipped cream. But raspberry jam is in my fridge all the time. I love the sweet and tartness of it, so that is what I'm going to use. And I'm only going to make a little bit of the whipped cream. So I'm going to put a cup of cold, heavy whipping cream in my mixer, a little bit of confectioner sugar, just a tablespoon should be fine, and a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And I'm going to whip this up until it begins to thicken and gets nice and thick. And then lastly, we're going to add our jam in here. So once it begins to thicken like that and start to look like yogurt, I'm going to add a little bit of raspberry jam or preserves or whatever you have in here. And then I'm going to whisk it until it's whipped cream, until it gets nice and thick. And that's it. It comes together in no time. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator and the whipped cream is ready. So at 22 minutes, I took them out, and as you can see, all around the edges, they look like they're done, and in the center, it would appear that it needed more time and that they're not done. But this is the time that you want to take it out. It's still going to be wet in the center. The edges are going to be dry and they're going to come out with some wet crumbs attached to them. Do not panic. This is not raw. It's cooked and it won't make you sick. But the only thing is you won't be able to serve it until it completely sets. So I know you're going to really feel like they're underdone and they're not cooked, and you're going to want, your instinct might tell you to bake them a little bit longer, and trust me, fight the urge and don't do that, because nobody likes dried out brownies. Trust me, when you're making fudgy brownies, they should be fudgy. Now you are going to need some time with this recipe, so it's very easy to put together. As you saw, you don't need any fancy mixers or anything. No hand mixer, no stand mixer. This is all done with a whisk, but you are going to need time. So the glass tray, once it sets, and I'm going to store it in my refrigerator covered in plastic wrap, and I'm just going to serve it straight out of the dish because it does not have parchment paper and it will not release from the pan. So I'm just going to serve it directly out of here. But this right here, my baking pan, I'm going to run a knife all around the edges. So I can even do that right now. So that way, once it sets, it'll release very easily. So just take a butter knife and run it all around the edges, and then let it set. It's going to take a couple of hours. Then you want to take it and wrap it in plastic wrap, and you could store it in your refrigerator overnight and then just prepare it the next day once it's totally set. Or you can wrap it up and store it in your freezer for 2 to 3 weeks and just take it out whenever you need it. Just make sure if it's in your freezer that it's wrapped really well. So double wrap it with plastic wrap, and then you can wrap it with an extra layer of foil, just so that way it doesn't get that freezer or refrigerator smell in it. Let's move on because I do have one that's ready. So as if this isn't chocolatey and fudgy enough, we're going to make this extra special by making some ganache to top it off with. So in this mixing bowl, I have some semi-sweet chocolate, and I just poured some boiling hot heavy whipping cream on top of it. I'm just going to whisk it all together until the chocolate is melted and it's nice and shiny. Okay, so I'm just going to pour it back into this pot right here because it has a little spout to it, and it's going to make it easier for me to pour the ganache over the brownie. You don't have to do this at home. Okay, so just take a look at the brownie. It's nice and set in the center. It's perfectly firm and it is beautiful, and you can totally serve it just as is, just like this. I just love making it in a round tray. I think it makes all the difference. I know that brownies are generally made in square pans or rectangular pans, but at the bakery we used to sell them round, and then we used to cut them in wedges, and I think it looks super cute and nice. So now you can pour the ganache on top, like I'm going to, just to make a nice shiny layer of chocolate. And then you could just spread it with a spoon or a spatula. Get a spoon. Just spread it all around. It could even drip down the sides just to get it, just so it can look really pretty, create a little drip. Just push it over the sides Look at that. So simple. Now at this point you want to wait a few minutes so that way the ganache sets. It can take 10-15 minutes or so, but I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to cut a wedge and just show you how fudgy the inside of this brownie is. And then we're going to serve this with some whipped cream just because we're taking it way over the top today. Just look at this, you guys. Take a look. Just look at that. That is the most perfect fudge brownie ever. I mean, I don't know, it's delicious. Now I'm gonna serve this. Now you can put all the whipped cream on top and serve it like in the center of the cake, just very rustic. You can pipe it on top with a pastry bag, fit it with a star attachment, and make little rosettes. Or you could put the whipped cream in the center and put a spoon in it and let whoever wants to add whipped cream to their brownie just put as much as they like by themselves. I'm gonna just serve this aside. And I'm drooling. I don't know if you could see, but there's a little chocolate chip in the center right there. Now, the best part of making these videos is always a taste test. I got a little bit of ganache, I got the brownie and the whipped cream. This is chocolate heaven, you guys. So, so fudgy, so good. You definitely want to make this. The recipe, as always, is on the website, www.dimitrasdishes.com. It's also down in the description box down below, right underneath this video. Let me know what you think. Share this recipe with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today, and I'll see you all next time. Gracias.